open it up to questions and further clarifications or contributions.
Just on admin work, committee work. I'm in a limited term, a 5-year limited term contract at Dalhousie. Done a lot of sessional before that, 3 years sessional after I graduated. I don't think when you're a limited term faculty member, you're able to say no to admin work, or I don't know if you are, but it's not really negotiable in my department. You're given committee work. I was given 10 committees when I first arrived. And I didn't feel that I could say no, or could I say no? And if I could, how do I do it in a politically correct way?
I ranted about committee work. Maybe I'll take a crack at that. With the caveat that every department, institution, what have you, has its own culture, and it's kind of important to assess that culture. It sounds like the local part of the institution you're involved in is quite hierarchical. That if I heard you, you were assigned committees.
We are, everyone is assigned. So
yes.
It's not, I mean, I know at, I think I heard at York in sociology, you can decide whether or not you want to do committee
yes,
work, and you can do 2.
Right.
But we are given, you know, you have your workload meeting, and you're given.
Yes, and so, you know, anything I think I might respond with is always, you know, modified by the nature of the particular institution itself. But that said, given that this is part of the explicit workload, for example, in my institution, limited term appointment people are not required to do committee work. They are encouraged if there's something they're particularly interested in, but it's not part of a limited term contract. So that said, there are committees and there are committees. And so if you had a general number of committees that you had to work with, it's worth taking some time and doing a little bit of research, speaking to other, especially junior faculty members, about which committees have what kind of workload. There are some committees that you may find dovetail very nicely with your own research and your own teaching efforts. And so as a consequence, you're preparing your own professional development while engaging in that particular kind of committee work. Or there may be some other committee work that is, as far as you're concerned, entirely irrelevant. It's concerned with something way outside your, you know, experience in building your own professional development in a direction that you want it to go. And so, you know, if there have to be 10 committees assigned with that, wouldn't it be nice if many of those committees were things that actually fell in step with your own professional development? And so I guess it would be committing strategically to the committees that support your own development, rather than putting in hour after hour in something that's not quite relevant. It also sounds that at your institution, there may be pressure to serve on certain committees, certainly as a junior faculty member, probably ones that more senior members don't want to serve on. Probably because they take an immense amount of time, probably because they're not consistent with that person's interests. So there are, I imagine, political ways of reminding senior members of the department or program that, you know, you are effectively on a job market. It may be a 5-year limited term appointment, but it is not a tenure stream appointment. And that, you know, you have good reasons for wanting to serve and wanting to serve on the committees that will help you develop, leaving the other committee work to others. So that's how I would handle the political issue.
When you speak of committee work, what type of committees? I'm unfamiliar.
Okay. Well, I'll speak sort of at the 3 levels. One is the departmental or program committee work, and that often involves things like, you know, what about the committee for curriculum? Department has to submit a number of its, you know, new courses or course changes to the university senate, you know, for approval there. So there may be a departmental level curriculum committee. There may be a committee at the departmental level on programming. What kinds of courses are we going to offer in the next 2 or 3 or 4 years? There may be committee work around, what should we say, departmental obligations to the rest of the university. Sometimes there are committees within schools or within divisions of the university that are struggling with overall curriculum reform, not just at the departmental level. So those kinds of things. Publicity committees dealing with graduate students, you know, honor students, what have you. There are usually these kinds of committees. At the university level, there is, on the one hand, the academic senate, and while you may have a departmental representative who sits on senate itself, senate sometimes has committees that require membership of more general faculty. And whether you're in the room or not, you may get appointed to one of these senate committees. and senate covers a wide range of really most of the academic aspects of the institution. The cognate to senate, at least at an institutional level and from a faculty perspective, is the faculty association, the faculty union. Some weird circumstance, I ended up being the faculty union president my second year, but only because someone stepped out of the presidency and I had the second greatest number of votes, and suddenly I was actually president. Not recommended for your second year, but that then is about workplace issues, collective agreement issues, and what have you. Again, a different kind of committee work. You're working for other faculty rather than in your specific academic program. There are additional kinds of service work, I'll say that, with organizations perhaps in your discipline. Some of these may be journals that you're related to, some may be the more sort of organizational structures within your particular discipline itself. Those ones tend to support your research agenda more than the internal institutional committees. But then I also do service work for local community groups and neighborhood organizations. And I find that useful to me because it relates to my private life. And I can lend that kind of expertise. And those don't feel quite like hours taking away from work, in part because of where those meetings are held and what those activities are. So that's, I guess, a little more definition of committee. And because each institution is different, some of these committees may operate differently. If you're at a tiny department, you're a committee at a whole all the time. If you're in a huge department, there may be several committees and subcommittees and what have you. If you have 30 faculty members, in a given department, that's one kind of organization versus 6 or 7 faculty members.
And to some degree, your interest in committee work can be governed by, unless you're being assigned it, which is frankly horrifying.
Yes.
For this idea of being appointed to 10 committees.
I thought that was the norm. I was surprised
Yeah.
that it's different elsewhere.
That would strike me as an institutional practice in desperate need of reform as soon as somebody has the guts to tackle it, because that really doesn't seem very productive. But you do have gifts as teachers or organizers, and if you can plug into the kind of committee work that facilitates that. I've tried to do curriculum committee work. I'm terrible at it. I'll read anything in curriculum and it all looks good to me, and somebody who's got any skill will recognize, no, this course form has this kind of problem, and they'll correct it all. And other committees are very institutionally driven. Some committees are much more ad hoc and less structured. I really like the committee work where we work on a particular project with very little oversight. I will select those kinds of things to get involved with because it fits my own interests for wanting to plow ahead with a project and then move on to something fresh. So the institution needs a lot of different kinds of things to work well. If you get a sense of, try a lot of different things, but once you've figured out what kinds of things you really like to do, that's not a bad way, because it does tend to feed you rather than drain you. I'm sorry.
No, it's good advice. One of my 10 things I told myself was that you can say no, but in your case, it seems like you can't. So that said, the fact that there's committee work or service work at different kinds of levels provides a number of actually interesting opportunities. So I've tried over the last couple of years to get involved in different levels of service work. So I'll go into a school and work with students at, say, Park Street to look at primary sources in history, because they had a group that was looking at the ancient Greek and Roman world, which is something that I love. So I was able to go and work with them at one level. On another level in our faculty, so we don't have a department, we have one large faculty of education, we have a graduate studies committee which looks at applications to the program, looks at graduate student shirk applications, and then works closely to, first of all, kind of rank those applications, but then also to work with students, offer them suggestions and work with them more closely to improve their shirk applications. And that's really rewarding because, first of all, I love working with grad students. Something that was important to me when I was a grad student was being involved in graduate student life. and keeps that connection, but also we were able to get 3 of our graduate students this year were able to get SSHRC funding, which is rewarding. On a university level, I was part of the academic Congress committee that helped plan some of the big ideas thinkers here. And that was nice because I got to meet people, just like this event here, I get to meet people from the University of New Brunswick, or from your university, who you don't see every day in the hallways, who are from English, or from sociology, or from other areas. And that's really cool, because I get to kind of see where I am and who my colleagues are at the university. And then above the university level, or not above, but maybe outside of the university level, there's national associations. So I was, probably because I was hosting Congress, we were hosting this year, that is, the Canadian Association for Foundations in Education was meeting, and I was their program chair, so I helped put together the program. And that kept me connected to scholars in my area of research outside of the university and across Canada. So I try, and I think going forward, I'm going to try to keep all of these kinds of levels in mind so that I get different kinds of involvement, because I actually find it really rewarding in that respect. But I, of course, have the benefit, it seems, to choose.